Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Kovacs here, and for Shabbat Chayei Sarah, Mishnah Yomi is in chapter 4 of Bava Batra, Mishnayot Zayin Chet. Hamocher Ta'ir, someone sells a city, and they haven't written in the contract exactly what's included. Machar Batim, it includes all the houses and buildings. Borot, the wells and water pits. Shichin and Arot, the other water storage underground. Merchatzaut, the bathhouses. Shovachot, the dovecotes. Beit Habadin, the olive press. Beit Shlochin, the irrigated fields adjacent to the field. Avaloat metaltalid, but not movable things inside the city. Now again, the Mishnah mentions a similar line, Uvizmanja Amarlo, and when the seller said, he, the city, v'chol ma shebatocha, and everything inside of her, afilu hayaba behema vadim, even if there's animals and servants in the city, harei chulan mechurin. Behold, they are sold along with the city. Now, it's interesting, there is such thing as a privately owned city, perhaps a company town, and it could be bought and sold. Perhaps he received it from the king or the government, and now he has apparently the right to sell it. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel adds, Hamocher ta'ir, macher ta'santer. If he sold the whole city, it includes the santer. Now, the Gemara on Daf 68 spends a lot of time figuring out, well, what is a santer? Is it actually like a garden or a field that's adjacent to the city, or is it actually a person who's indispensable to the city because he's like the town clerk and the guy in charge of the survey office? He knows where everyone's property is, where all the property lines are. So without him, everyone's going to argue about where their property line is. So he kind of becomes indispensable. And they say he could even be an Eved, or he could be not necessarily literally like an Eved Kanani, but a public servant. So the idea of a public servant who's indispensable to the running of a town is right here in the Mishnah. Now on to Mishnah. If you're selling your field, you've sold the stones that are needed for the field, perhaps needed to build a fence. They've been designated to hold down the sheaves of grain. And poles in a vineyard that you use with the grapevines. And grains that are still attached to the ground. And a thicket of reeds, like a corner of the field full of reeds. Mebeit rova, that's smaller than the area you'd plant a rova of seeds. So if it's a large thicket, it's bigger than this size, this beit rova, it's not included, it's chashuv by itself, but if it's smaller, it's included. Bet the shomera and the watchman's hut, the guy who watches the field and keeps the animals away, he gets a hut so he doesn't get a sunburn, he gets a sukkah. She'ena suya betit, as long as it's not cemented, plastered with clay, cemented down. That's a charuv, sheno morkav, also a carob tree in the field that's not morkav. Morkav is like lashon rachiva, like riding. It means grafted. When a carob tree is old enough, they would graft other carob branches onto it. This one's too young. Vet betulat hashikma, and a maiden sycamore tree. Again, when the sycamore gets big enough, they would cut it in a certain way so it would produce very good, straight, strong beams for building. This sycamore is not large enough yet, so it's sold with the field. But if these trees are big enough where, they're starting to use them commercially, they would not automatically be included with the sale of the field. Shabbat Shalom, Tizkul Mitzvot.